Hey everyone, I'm so happy with the response from that F1 video. You know, it really makes me so glad to see how many folks enjoyed that video. As I said at the end of that one, I think it was the most technically challenging video for me to make as a trombone player. So I wanted to make this video and just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit to show you what I meant by that. So if you don't want to know and you want to keep the mystery, stop the video now. Stop watching. Okay, so now for those of you brave enough to continue watching, in this video I want to show you a few examples of the types of technique I did when making that recording. This way you can go back and listen again knowing exactly what I was doing on the trombone to make each of the sounds. So there's a bunch of different sound effects that I was trying to replicate by using some more advanced techniques on the trombone. You'll see more later on, but my first example is the first notes of the piece. In the recording that I listened to when writing this arrangement, right at the beginning it sounded like a rumbling car engine, and stacked on top of that was the sound of a car driving past at a really high speed. You know, like an F1 car. So I figured the best way to make that sound is to use a low note with a flutter tongue, and to stack on top of that a glissando in a wooden straight mute. So I'll go more into the choice of mute in the next example, so don't worry about that for now. Another thing to note is that I used the flutter tongue a couple other times in this piece to replicate drum fills. I did my best to try and replicate that because I think they do so much in building the momentum of this piece, and I thought in particular that I should try and include that in my recording. So anyway, here's what some of that stuff sounds like. So first, here's the low flutter tongue. That begins the whole piece. Here's the flutter tongue as the drum fill. Last is the glissando above, stacked on top of the flutter tongue. Pretty cool, right? So, also in this little section of the score below, you can see an example of something that I'm going to talk about later on, which is a really wide range. In this example right here, the range is from D1 to G4, spanning more than 3 octaves. So just keep that in mind as we go along. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to talk about was what my wife so rightly called the Nyooooom sound. This comes back throughout the piece many times, and I think it's supposed to be what it would sound like to an audience member as an F1 car raced past them. I went through an interesting process to really achieve the sound that I was after here. First, I noticed that these were pitched glissandi, and that I would need to notate each one, and that I would have to make sure to play the specified pitches, not just random glissandi. Part of this can be included in the range talk as well. As you'll see in the score, the highest one begins on D5, 4 octaves earlier than the D1 earlier. So anyway, next I wanted to test various mutes I have to see if they were closer to the sound that I was after rather than playing on the open horn alone. So I had 4 mutes that I picked out: the metal straight mute, the cup mute, the Harmon mute, and the wooden straight mute. And I had my wife Emily listen to each example and tell me which one she thought was the best. This is how I landed on the wooden straight mute. First I started with the Harmon mute. Looks like this. Sounds like that. Here's the metal straight mute, which looks like this. That was a pretty good one. This one came in second place, if I'm honest. here's the cup mute. It looks like this. It's got a big cup at the end. And finally, here's what I settled on, the wooden straight mute. It's made of a light wood. So I settled on the wooden straight mute. I thought that was the best sound. So the last thing I did after I chose and recorded with the wooden mute was I decided to use the pan function. And that makes it appear like the sound was coming from left to right in your headphones or in your speakers. I thought that was a cool effect, and I thought it really helped set the mood of what it would be like if you were standing there watching an F1 race. So the last bit I want to talk about is the range of this piece. I've already said some stuff earlier, but this will be more in depth. This is an epic piece of music, and a lot of times music like this requires you to play with a wide range. The range of this particular arrangement is from C1 to F sharp 5, spanning more than 4 octaves and a half. C1 is not the lowest note I've ever played. I've played B flat 0 before, but F sharp 5 is certainly the highest note I've ever played in public. I've always had decent high register, and I've never been the type to worry about hitting high notes or anything like that. And I think it's because one of my first teachers would always say to me, well, look, you know, I can play that. These other folks can play that. Just hear the note and play the note you hear. So I had this approach where it was like, you know, who cares, man? I'll just give it my best shot. I'll try to play the note that I hear. And I think this kind of attitude has helped me, especially now making these YouTube videos and playing more commercial style music for my channel. While the high notes are flashy and cool and everyone is so excited when someone plays really high notes, right? On the trumpet especially, or something like that. I think the pedal tones on the bass trombone are why I love the instrument so much. Laying down pedal C1 for everyone else to sit their sound on is like no other feeling to me. Always when I'm listening back to these recordings, I think to myself, wow, you know, bass trombone is freaking awesome, man. I'm so lucky to play such a great instrument. So just talking about the range now, I just want to play the lowest part at the end, and then I'll give it my best shot to play the highest part. So that's the lowest. Here's the highest. Something like that. So thank you all so much for watching this. I hope you can go back and watch the F1 video with a little bit more perspective about exactly what was going on in the recording. I love the bass trombone. I love that I'm able to share some of my knowledge with you all. I'd also love to know what you think about this kind of video. It's a little different than what I've been putting out. So if you have any thoughts or questions, or if you want to talk about any other trombone related things, leave a comment here or write to my email, which I'll put in the description below. Again, thank you so much for checking out the channel and watching the videos. I have so much love for all of you who have been supporting me and supporting this project. I have an awesome video planned for next week, and I'm very excited to be recording it. So, until Wednesday, goodbye.